It's round one for the Democrats, set to roll the dice in Las Vegas tonight. In a little more than 3 hours from now, 5 Democratic candidates will take the debate stage in their first showdown of the 2016 election. The stakes are high for frontrunner Hillary Clinton, but should the audience believe a word she says? Here's a refresher on just some of Clinton's flip-flops and contradictions on issues over the years.
I believe that marriage is not just a bond, but a sacred bond between a man and a woman.
I support marriage for lesbian and gay couples. I support it personally and as a matter of policy and law.
So it is with conviction that I support this resolution as being in the best interests of our nation.
I've made it very clear that I made a mistake, plain and simple. I did not email any classified material to anyone on my email. There is no classified materials.
A second review by the intelligence community has found that 2 emails in Clinton's server, including one about North Korea's nuclear weapons program, did in fact contain highly classified information when she received them.
The so-called TPP will lower barriers, raise standards, and drive long-term growth across the region.
As of today, I am not in favor of what I have learned about it.
All right. Well, so that's just a little snippet in case you had a little bit of a mind fuzz on Hillary and, shall we say, her loose relationship with the truth, Dana.
Well, everyone has the right to their opinion and to change their opinion, but she has abused the privilege over and over again. So I think that I would try to nail her down on a few of these things. It'll be interesting to see if any of the other Democratic candidates actually go after her on her record and her vacillations. I think that you might see Governor O'Malley, the former governor of Maryland. He might take a shot like that. I think Greg has some thoughts on somebody else that might decide to jump in. But by all accounts, this debate, they're really lowering expectations for entertainment of this debate or like getting any good information out or understanding anything about how any of these candidates would actually want to govern the country.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, though, the bar is set so high tonight. So if they perform at all, they may perhaps exceed expectations. Greg, what do you got?
That's been my goal in life. Always set low expectations. She's like Shaquille O'Neal's sandal, a big flip-flop. We'll be right back. I agree that it could be very boring because no one wants to pick on her because she might win. It's like how you always want to be nice to the guy in IT because you could ruin your life later. Like when you're on the phone, you don't want to be mean to him because he could put porn on your computer. Not that I know. You say O'Malley, I say Jim Webb. Here's why. I think Jim Webb is the true outsider at that on the days. He's not a socialist, so he's separate from all the other 4. He's a war hero, which is also makes him an outsider on that days. And he could make Hillary's first debate. And this is a prediction that is way off, but it could be her last debate. If he comes at her on national security like a focused laser and says, you are not equipped to be president because we can't even trust you with emails. If he goes at her like that, she's gone. He goes up to like second place. That's my prediction.
Well, let's go to our insider, Eric Bolling, the MOS, man on the strip. You're an insider at the Win.
I think that would be a long shot.
Yes, it would.
Very least.
He has nothing to lose.
Well, most people don't even know he's running.
No, right. But
that helps.
Look, it's 1 and 2 right now. It's Hillary and Bernie, and guess who's third? Joe Biden, who's allegedly not even going to be there tonight. I think you're right. They need to do Webb and Chafee and O'Malley need to do something just to get recognized, just to stay in the race. Mm-hmm. I think that's not going to end up happening.
They should have an empty podium for Biden.
Well, they do. Off to the side,
no,
there is.
I mean, it's hilarious. And that would do the polling after they say he did the best in the debate.
But note that the biggest news of today isn't about Biden, isn't about Hillary Clinton. The biggest news of today is about Donald Trump is going to host Saturday Night Live in a month. So he even upstaged the Democrats on the day, on their big day. I think it's going to be boring. I agree with you. I think if Bernie Sanders is in it to win it, he'll go after her on all the emails. He will nail her on emails. Now, the people on the left will say, if that were the case, he wouldn't want to do that because it would look like he would be helping the Republicans. No, if Bernie's in it to win it, you'll know he'll go after that. Because remember, it wasn't a vast right-wing conspiracy that unearthed a lot of the email scandal. It was the New York Times. And he should hang it on the New York Times and say, look, Did you do it? What do you give us an explanation of what really happened? Who pushed the video? If he's in it to win it, he'll go after it. If he's not, then this is all big scam, and just to hand her the nomination.
Maybe O'Malley will do it, or Webb. Somebody's got to do it.
No, he's got to do it. They can't.
Why does he
They're
have to
done.
Somebody's got to do it if you want to stand out.
O'Malley, Webb, and Chafee are not going to be the Democrat nominees. They're just not. So if anyone's going to do it, it's either got to be Biden or Bernie.
Well, but here's the problem. And if I'm in debate prep with one of these men, this is what I'm concerned about. Every time somebody goes after her in a debate, it backfires on them. It backfired on Obama when he said, remember, you're likable enough, Hillary? He lost New Hampshire because of that. Remember when Rick Lazio went up to her in the 2000 Senate race and tried to hand her that piece of paper? And, it's very hard when you're debating a woman to not appear to be a bully. And I think that's the challenge for all of them. And that, I think, is the problem that they're facing in debate prep as to how do you handle this? Do you really go after her?
You think Bernie could be a bully?
I think Bernie, with his big New York accent, I think could come across as this mad scientist bully. Look, I think...
Is that a Halloween costume?
Yeah, it might be a Halloween costume or dressing up as mad scientist Bernie from Brooklyn. But, you're right to some extent. Somebody's going to have to go after her or else there's no reason for them to be on the debate stage.
There's only one person who can come from a national security perspective. This guy won a Navy Cross.
Oh, my God,
he was in Vietnam. He was a Reagan appointee. He's got it. Now, Sanders...
But in the Democratic primary, Greg, he's to the right of her national security, and that doesn't help.
However, Sanders is going by this idea of being an outsider. He has been running for office for 40 years.
I agree.
He hates big business, but his big business is government. He's a crony communist. Is there such thing as he's a crony communist?
Yeah, all of communism is crony. Totally, that exists. Yeah. That's a thing.
There you go.
There you go.
All right, I'm taking off now.
It almost sounds like you're pretty excited. You're a little bit jonesing for Webb.
I am interested in him. He has one flaw. He wrote some fiction books in which the sex scenes are a little unusual.
Oh,
but at least they weren't in the nonfiction books. But in the fiction books...
Tell us more.
Let me read some. Shall I?
Yeah,
no,
please.
I'm not. But anyway.
Don't. Skip it.
Now, that's the only
But you think that's going to hurt him?
It might help him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It could help him.
In like the romance Harlequin department?
Yeah.
You never know. You never know. With like your friend Fabio on the cover. Interesting. True story. Dana, so I want to talk to you a little bit about Biden. Talk a little bit about Biden because in the new polling and everything that's come out, he actually does better than Hillary in head-to-head matchups with the GOP candidates. Yet this is a man who still has not announced, his candidacy. Everybody's sort of on this wait and see. And you see the poll numbers up there. So if you're someone in the Democratic Party, wouldn't you be thinking of switching horses when you see these kind of numbers?
Well, the Democratic race is really boring when the media is basically writing stories and spending money to ask questions in a poll about somebody who's not even a declared candidate, even though there has been some flirtation. And I know that it was mentioned sort of from his camp that he'd be making a decision this month. And he kind of has to because there are just some logistical things that has to happen if you want to be on the ballot in some of these states. I also think that a lot of those numbers for him, it's actually name ID, I think, for the most part, that he's more popular or he's more well known. Therefore, people say, oh, yeah, Biden, I could be for him because people are still shopping around. Not a good thing for Hillary if people are still willing to shop around and they're not satisfied with her.
But also numbers that show that people find him to be more likable, more trustworthy. Those
all
are
of the above.
Yeah, and I think
her numbers are declining in that area. And she's also losing with the women, Julie, as well now. She's dropped some points.
Yeah, Biden, exactly right. Biden's coming up like this because Biden has always seemed genuine. You might like him, you might dislike him, but nobody ever thinks he's a phony. Her problem is that she does not come across as somebody who's genuine. She's got to address that tonight. She has to. If she doesn't address that tonight, she's in deep trouble.
Julie, how much, can you mind if I ask her a question? How much in the debate prep for somebody like a Hillary Clinton, what's going on behind the scenes right now? Does she like a lot of prep or is she saying, this is not my first rodeo, I've got this, don't bother me anymore?
She's got amazing people doing debate prep for her. I know some of them. I spoke to some of them. She is very prepared. She's always the girl. She's always the student that is very prepared. So she'll always be the person.
What kind of software are they inserting into her back?
Oh, my God.
It's interesting. That's a great question. I'm going to get back to you. I'm going to let you know.
Like
I'm going to make a phone call.
Yes.
I'm going to make a phone call.
Jim Henson will be there working the strings.
I'm going to make a phone call and let me know. But I think she does want to do a lot of debate prep. She also needs to get, my understanding is in debate prep, prior debate preps, she'd get a lot of her aggression out at questions that she didn't like to hear on the debate staff. And then you could go and be calm and be likable in the debate.
Bolling.
Too bad she doesn't like her staff, the ones that told her, fix the email scandal problem, because that is a problem. The interesting thing about that number that you showed, that Biden was beating every single one of those Republican candidates, Hillary was losing to every single one of them as well. So I mean, so Joe Biden is playing this perfectly right. So tonight, if Hillary has a horrible showing, there's going to be even further outcry for him to get in the race, and he's going to come in with a whole bunch of wind in his sails and probably a lot of money. If she has a terrific showing, he may say, well, maybe it's not the right time for me to be doing this. I think one of the subtexts that's going on today, Debbie Wasserman Schultz versus the vice chair. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the chairman of the DNC.
It's a good fight.
Disinvited the vice chair because the vice chair suggested
Tulsi Gabbard?
Tulsi Gabbard disinvited her because Tulsi Gabbard suggested more debates. Now, Wasserman Schultz pushed back, said there will only be 6, and now the reason why that's important is because it seems like the DNC is in the bag for Debbie Wasserman Schultz. They want fewer debates, fewer opportunities for Hillary to lose her lead.
That's called message discipline.
Yeah, it is, but I have to say Deborah Wasserman Schultz has got to understand she's not the leader of the Clinton campaign. She's the leader of the DNC. She needs to be impartial. What she's doing is disgraceful. And I say that as a Democrat.
Interesting.
There you go.
I think Hillary's going to shine tonight. And the media will delight in writing the stories of don't count her out.
Well, maybe they'll delight regardless whether or not they watch the debate. That might
Depends
be the
how she deals with the. If she has this thing when people ask her questions, she comes off like an angry customer at the airline counter. You know, they're mad because the flight got canceled, and they take it out on the person on the counter who has no control. When she does that, she loses.
That's annoying.
You know, there is, I'm sorry, you got to go, but there is one interesting aspect to the debate tonight, and I think it'll be better than the questions coming from Anderson Cooper, because he's already getting a little wishy-washy on some of that stuff, is the Facebook stuff.
Oh, you mean Donald Trump is going to live tweet?
No. Don Lemon is going to take questions from Facebook, and that's really America's voice. I like that. I'm curious those questions, how they're phrased versus the ones that are coming from the post.
I hate it when they take it from